Tenzin Dorjee Majana Gitada in the Singing Tangi Tando, Kojalana Mebayanda was over Sanji Component between the Tobrashago, the Tobrashavi Cheto, and the children of the same and become Shangi Semji, say Sembe one assembly show.
Our goal is to accomplish complete enlightenment for the sake of all other kind mother sentient beings. It's for that reason we cultivate the altruistic motivation or bodhicitta motivation, and with that kind of motivation we should all participate in this teaching. So it is important for us to think about what kind of spiritual goal or enlightenment that we are seeking, and for what reason. As I just mentioned, that we are seeking complete enlightenment or Buddhahood, and that too for the sake of benefiting other sentient beings. In general, we talk about three vehicles or yanas, tekpa in Tibetan, in Buddhism, and these are Shavagayan or hearer's vehicle, Pratyeka Buddhayan or solitary realizer's vehicle, and Mahayan or great vehicle. So each vehicle, as a matter of fact, involves a process and cultivating path that leads us to a particular spiritual destination or helps us to fulfill a particular spiritual goal. And so in that sense, we often talk about three types of bodhi, literally meaning enlightenment. So the three types of enlightenment are related to the three vehicles. There is enlightenment of hearers or shirvakas. There is enlightenment of solitary realizers or Pratyeka Buddhas. And then there is the enlightenment of bodhisattvas. And so those are the three different types of enlightenment.
so that into Jituba, Ranja Jituba, that lump into the Ranja Shalan, the Tene, and then that can become a 12 years. Yena, what and Jungu Karni, until the Ane, that Ju Kunjung, Kunjung the Terry, that tug you are it, later your money tug you, savior, later your money tug you. Yena Ane, Toja Tagu, then the Sanji come to talk to your money.
Hearer's vehicle and solitary realizer's vehicle could lead us to complete freedom or liberation from samsara or cyclic existence. So when we are completely free from cyclic existence or samsara, through such vehicles or paths, we have become what is called arhats or arahants, someone who has destroyed the enemy of delusions in their minds. So the point I'm trying to make here is that by way of following either hearer's vehicle, that is Shavakayan, or solitary realizer's vehicle, that is Pratyeka Buddhayan, that we could liberate or free ourselves from cyclic existence, its suffering, and the causes of suffering, which means that we can free ourselves from contaminated karmic actions and deluded states of mind for good. That being said, these two vehicles, hearers and solitary realizers, they do not lead us to the complete enlightened state. In other words, that we become an arahat or arahant, and we are free from samsara for good, but we are not yet Buddhas, enlightened beings. So then if you wonder if the vehicles of hearers and solitary realizers do not lead to complete enlightened state, then why did Buddha, talk about these vehicles? Why couldn't he have just talked about, in other words, one vehicle only that leads to complete enlightened state? Now here is the reason why Buddha had to talk about three different vehicles and how these vehicles lead to different types of enlightenment. We need to consider the fact that all people or sentient beings do not have the same predispositions or spiritual inclinations. And so it is, required that for those people who are, not yet ready, so to speak, to be guided straight into the path leading to complete enlightened state, so they need to be led or guided, very strategically, if you will, and which suits their predispositions. So it is in that sense Buddha's teachings on the vehicles of hearers and solitary realizers are to be considered as a skillful method or a way, eventually leading everybody, to follow the vehicle that leads to complete enlightened state. So Buddha's teachings on the vehicles of hearers and solitary realizers are, in a sense, what you would say, the stepping stone kind of teachings that would guide people eventually to the great vehicle that leads to complete enlightened state.
Tartuna Tadul Tibatimatu Yamaris.
So in terms of, shall we say, short-term perspectives, yes, our teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha, did talk about three, vehicles. The vehicles of hearers, solitary realizers, and bodhisattvas, or more of the other two. But in terms of the long-term perspective, what we need to understand is that there is only one ultimate vehicle, one and only one, and that is the great vehicle leading to complete enlightened state.
Tartuna Tibaki Matu Mavati, Junsian Tavayoris, Kari is an Sinji Tangi the Sanji Rig Chap, Sanji Rig Chapata, Rita Sage Yabakan, to Sage Yabata, Real Senia, Sanji Combato Yabak, Lucian Tang, ever the Lunza Mai Periva and Dakon and Lucian Santon de.
So when we say that in ultimate sense there is one and only one vehicle for everyone, and that is the great vehicle that connects us to complete enlightened state. And that is based upon both Buddha's scriptural authority and reasonings. As I was explaining to you the other day, that each and every sentient being has what we call Buddha nature, the seed of enlightenment in their mind. Every sentient being has it. And not only that, every sentient being has the seed of enlightenment in their mind, but that seed could be activated by favorable conditioning factors. So once that seed is activated by favorable conditioning factors and you nurture it, then everybody has the equal chance and opportunity to become a Buddha.
And Sanji Tamal, you are at the Inayata, Del any Tesoje, Turbatan, Sambe, any Gombasumji, Tesam Gomshi, Sue Matana, and of course, any tea, Rick the Sea coverage.
So it is a fact from Buddhist perspective that every sentient being, every one of us, every sentient being has Buddha nature or the seed of enlightenment in our mind. Now that being said, the differences that we find among ourselves is that there are those who cultivate favorable conditioning factors to activate and nurture their seed of enlightenment, and then there are others who don't do that. So we do find differences among ourselves in terms of those factors. And so what are the favorable conditioning factors that we need to activate the seed of enlightenment, if you ask? As I was explaining to you the other day, that it is through this threefold approach of listening, contemplation, and meditation that we are able to activate and nurture our seed of enlightenment and enhance it to the greatest extent possible, and where we become an enlightened person. So as we adopt the threefold approach of listening, contemplation, and meditation, in Tibetan called Te Sam Kom Sum, our focus or the goal of adopting this threefold approach is to cultivate bodhicitta, the altruistic mind of enlightenment in our mind, and enhance it. Why? Because without bodhicitta, the altruistic mind of enlightenment, we can never become Buddha. And without bodhicitta, we couldn't enter into the path of bodhisattvas leading to enlightenment. So therefore, development of bodhicitta is a must, to become a Mahayanist and to reach complete enlightened state. And our listening to teaching, contemplation, and meditation should all be geared towards, this experience of bodhicitta.
So, Sanjay Combato Chavala, Jesse Shangi Simbi, Shabal Hogari. Jesse Shangi Simbi, Shabal Hoba Shabala, and Shangi Sembrangi Shane, and the Lamtala Kugu, Chunsan, Shangi send Jesse Namchi Jews, Omanjuan Uskanangaris.
In order to become a Buddha or complete enlightened being or fully awakened being, we must engage in what we call the bodhisattva's deeds or actions to benefit sentient beings. To be able to engage in bodhisattva actions benefiting sentient beings, we must cultivate the altruism or bodhicitta, so without which we couldn't do it. So now you can see the causal link between enlightenment and bodhisattva's actions and bodhisattva's attitude or bodhicitta, as it is clearly stated in the supplement to the middle way or Madhyamik Avatar by great Indian master Chandrakirti, and Geshe quoted the lines from his memory, which basically said that bodhicitta is the cause which gives rise to bodhisattvas.
No, so that Pendiki Shangi Saran is saying T Tola, don't need to be hearing of Trosh and then you put the sound in the Shangi said that don't need to be hearing of the sound and Jenny, and then Sanji Combato died, and there's a jungle.
So in other words, if we would like to become a bodhisattva, we must cultivate bodhicitta, because it is the cause that gives rise to bodhisattvas. And we must also keep in our mind that we need to combine bodhicitta with the wisdom gone beyond, the wisdom realizing emptiness as it is, shunyata or sunnata as it is. Because it's through this integrated path of bodhicitta and the wisdom gone beyond that we must find complete enlightened state, that we must realize or actualize complete enlightened state. So as I always do this, at the beginning of, at the beginning of my teaching on Sundays, that I talk about, certain important, themes of Buddhism, which are relevant to everybody. And so this is what I have thought about sharing with you today. And those of you who already know about these things or have heard these teachings before, this would serve as a good reminder for you to refocus your mind on these issues. And for others, these are new teachings, so you can consider this as an advice, coming from me. Returning to where we left off in this wonderful text, for simplicity's sake, called Personal Advices from Kadampa Geshes, as we were talking about this last week, that we need to cultivate bodhicitta, the altruistic mind of enlightenment, and stabilize it within our mind. So we were talking about what are the ways or means by which we can cultivate bodhicitta or bodhisattva's attitude. And I mentioned to you that there are two predominant meditational techniques to do that. And one is simply called the 6 causes and 1 result meditation technique, in Tibetan called Gyunde Mengatun. And then the other one is called equalizing and exchanging self for others, Dakshin Nyamche. So through these meditation techniques that we should be able to cultivate bodhicitta in our mind.
Tandi he and the Tendita Aniki Susu Quiet and Malaysia Tendita Maris Gomjak, the Sanju Serum Gongrimato Magomna near Lord the Zang de Yamaris.
Once again, I want to remind all of ourselves that the purpose of our participating in the teaching is not for some intellectual purpose, to get some new information, to get some kind of intellectual understanding so that we will be able to, talk about these things with other people or that we may be able to teach this to others. That's not the purpose or goal of our participating in the teaching. The purpose is and should be, to cultivate, these techniques, and so that we ourselves are able to experience bodhicitta in our mind. So that means we cannot simply engage in this kind of teaching just for intellectual reasons and curiosity. But our motivation and goal is to learn about the techniques, meditation techniques, so that we adopt them, so that we are able to apply these techniques to ourselves and cultivate bodhicitta.
So that Junde Mengading Goni and Shanju St. Lojan Sitella and Cassing it up. When the Tangyong Company when dog is cubing, but 10 dollars.
So you may remember that last time I said before we follow, let's say, the 6 causes and 1 result meditation technique, we need to prepare our mind for that kind of meditation technique. And the way we do that is we have to cultivate what we call sense of equanimity or balanced state of mind.
That same Hyomsadi, Yetel, and Jogotang, Dratang, any Parmasita, Draming, draw mine, that and they assume any those in some tongues giving must 10 dollars.
So how do we balance our state of mind, and in relation to whom, if you ask? Do you remember that I was talking about that we can think of 3 different people, if you will, in our presence. That there is our very good friend, that there is a stranger who is neither our friend nor our enemy. We don't know this person, and then there is someone we consider as our enemy. So it is in relation to these 3 different types of beings or people that we try to balance out our attitude, because we have biases, biased attitudes towards them.
Ane Pame Senkila Menita Yavarndone. Oh, they Yagatsugama, Dugatsugama, Pentang Sanguyama, Drying Sanguyama, Chester, Tendeki, Pama Yavarndone, Tendeki, Rang Gila, and Semti, Mandra, Dusing Sum, Dustasikin Sum the was.
So we think about 3 different people in our presence: a very good friend, a stranger, and an enemy. And then we observe our own attitudes in relation to them. What kind of attitudes do we carry normally in relation to these 3 different people? And as we do that observation, what we find is that in relation to this whom we consider as our dear and near one friend, we have attachment. We are very attached to this person, seeing this person as our friend. Now, in relation to the one we consider enemy, we feel angry, hostility, and upset. So these are our attitudes in relation to the person who we see as an enemy. Now, in relation to the stranger who is neither friend nor enemy, we have indifferent attitude, meaning that we really don't care what happens to this person. It's just like, we have no interest. So these are the different attitudes or the biases that we observe in our own mind as we relate to these three different people. That's our normal kind of way of thinking, if you like.
I think those in the Gomdi the Shangi same Gondi Zani Tereta Jegum Shegur Matum Jogum Shem average Jegum Shini Chabasini Gomkores.
So as we are doing this kind of a meditation and reflection, and especially when we do meditation to cultivate bodhicitta, we have to do what is called analytical meditation. We simply cannot put our mind in a kind of a single-pointed focus on these themes and then don't think about any other things. We have to analyze, we have to investigate, we have to examine, you see. So we have to do analytical meditation to cultivate bodhicitta.
This is the Pama Sumbuti, Daniel Shepe Tutan, near Dashepe Tu. I think Pama that any but the Pama singing and two yumbers. That in this one, those that Coraquanta, Lucini, Colquana Yicini, Coenelta, Lichie, but some mountains.
So as we observe our attitudinal reactions towards these three different people, a friend, enemy, and stranger, in order to balance out our attitude towards them, we have to do a lot of analytical thinking. And so our analytical thinking involves, as I was explaining to you the other day, all the possibilities of changes that happen in relationships. We have to consider the possibility that our friend could become an enemy, or our friend was an enemy before, or that the enemy could become a friend, or was a friend before. Or as a matter of fact, as I was telling you last time, where do these friends and enemies come from? If there is a source, so to speak, then it has to be this stranger. A stranger becomes a friend, a stranger becomes an enemy. So therefore, the stranger seems to be that factor or the variable which gives rise to, friendship and hostility. You see, so we have to consider all this, changing relationships.
Daniel Jordan, Dalan Jovatunzo, showing how much the time Matune. The Hana and it and Mampuchi, Shizo, no, you would do it. Tenzo Ganga socially, that maybe it has a chagioris.
Of course, we do this kind of analytical meditation in the context of that, there are such things as life before and life after. But if it's really too difficult for us to consider that, how could I, think about who this person, enemy, friend could have been in my past lives, a friend, enemy, or a stranger? That's like too much above my head. Well, we don't have to be too kind of constricting in that sense. We can just think about this life, and there are plenty of examples that we know and that we hear about, how in our society, in our world, that all these changes are happening. Friends becoming enemies, enemy become friends, stranger becoming enemies, stranger becoming friends, and all these things, this is an influx of things changing around too much, you see. This is what we observe, what we could see in this lifetime.
So that in days on the town, and Sinki Tamkila, Rang Dying Tonus and the Sosu in Tomba Nangi, someone looked at Kiwich. Surely never Kabi Tongo then and Daniel Gombe and Cousin, you want the temperatures.
So as we train our mind in this way, through this process, and then we try to, as we get really good at balancing out our attitudes towards these three people, then we try to extend the scope of our meditation to include more and more people, more and more beings, and as a matter of fact, all sentient beings. So now, as a result of this kind of meditation, so when we run into any person, that's our enemy, now if we have this changed attitude, instead of seeing this person becoming unhappy and angry and hostile to this person, if we see this person as good as our friend, seeing our friend, if we have the same attitude towards all beings in our encounters and thoughts, then that means really we have developed sense of equanimity. We have developed even-mindedness. We have balanced out our attitudes towards sentient beings. So that is like preparing the groundwork for 6 causes and 1 result meditation to develop bodhicitta. So don't include or count this sense of equanimity as one of the 7 points. It is not. It is, it is a groundwork that we need to do. It's a preparatory work, if you will. So once we have balanced out our attitudes towards beings, now the first step, which is one of the 6 causes, is to recognize that all sentient beings have been our kind mothers. So when you hear this, maybe you feel this way, that how is that possible? All sentient beings have been my kind mothers. I can only think of one mother, who gave birth to me. So each has got one mother, not 2 mothers or, numberless mothers. So if we feel that way, of course, basically that means we are only thinking about here and now, this lifetime, and we are really not considering the existence of, previous lives and so forth. So when we think in terms of only one lifetime, of course, there's only one possibility. One could have only one mother. How could one have too many mothers in one lifetime? That is impossibility. So in terms of one lifetime, it is a fact that each person who is born from a mother will have only one mother. Couldn't have been born from too many mothers. So in order to recognize all beings as being our mothers, we have to consider the possibilities of life befores and life afters, how we came into this life from the previous life, and from this life how we will go into next life. So people who do not believe in life before and life after, we can see that it is very difficult and almost inconceivable to understand how all beings could have been our mothers, because they are only concerned with that they know about only this lifetime. So this is like to use an example here, if we pick up a handful of dry dry peas or beans, and we throw them on the wall hoping that something will stick to the wall, it's not going to happen.
So that never do rank show as you have something with that.
So the point I'm trying to make here is that each of us has to really consider the possibility of life before and life after.
That's how much okay. Then me, but that's how much okay. Hakover was the Kuba in the matter, the Kuba the Hakon man the day.
As far as this life, who we are right now, right? In our case, we are human beings. That is a fact of life. I think everybody knows that. I don't think any human can be stupid not to know that he or she is a human.
So that the any show and the conditioning Tali Tambu show and dig someone to be in the said. I make Naleta, they are Tambu said that. I mean, Nal layer was.
So when we think about this human life and we try to trace its origin, right, we go, all the way back to, to the womb of our mother, right? That's where it all began.
First time.
Yes, that is the beginning point.
That in the journey, that any you do journey, run any conditioning. Sand up to the don't have any run any ratio rate. Any Michabre country, long Michabre country is sung to us.
So how do you think that we conceived in the womb of the mother? Is it something like inanimate objects? They somehow enter into mother's womb and then we grow there? Like maybe some kind of inanimate objects like plants and rocks, got into mother's womb and then somehow magically, a human being developed? Or is it like some kind of elements like wind energy or fire or something got into mother's womb and become a human? So what are the possibilities? How did we conceive in the womb of the mother? That's the question we need to raise.
That so maintained so maintained that so they mind and then some Maria coverage.
So we have to understand that inanimate phenomena or objects which do not have the kind of life, the breathing, the kind of conscious life that we have, cannot become humans or cannot become any sentient beings for that matter.
Yeah. I mean, the Indusani, that combo Namshi the Matu, Yeke Yamaras, Keke Yamaras, the Namshi Changbati, I mean, all hubris.
So how did we conceive in the womb of the mother? What was there in the first place, that got into mother's womb? Well, there is a point there that what really entered or conceived into the womb of the mother was just a consciousness. And that was nothing else.
So that Sata Dollar Soba, that Semake, the object, that, I mean, they try sometimes.
Well, we can understand it pretty much that, inanimate objects couldn't have got into mother's womb in the first place, right? We cannot think that, some kind of a rock, disappeared and got into mother's womb, or some kind of, other elemental things got into mother's womb. That's just not a possibility. The point I'm trying to make here is that the consciousness, has its own continuity, and consciousness could not have been a product of inanimate objects. Inanimate objects cannot become consciousness. They do not produce consciousness. Only consciousness could give rise to consciousness.
Rugby one is the drinking around something was this same thing, and due to Chang because Kasang Chung, Kasang didn't lose in mind the Danny, that devilish.
So if you try to kind of think in a little more, conceptual way that could be more understandable to us is, let's say, when we think of today's mind that we have now. So today's mind is a continuation of yesterday's mind. Right? Where did today's mind of ours come from? From yesterday's mind. So where did that yesterday's mind come from? The day before that. So in that way, we can go back and trace the continuity of our mind.
So the 당가라서 누구세는 예. 소 제가미 샘때 바도르치 바도게 샘때 아니 다시 말하면서 아멘갈 누구스 레는 거래서.
So then today's consciousness continues into, tomorrow's consciousness and so on. And until we die. So when we die, our consciousness, after the death, it goes into what we call partho or intermediate state. And that consciousness in the partho, intermediate state, it conceives in the womb of a mother.
So that definition, Shawang Hama, Sengu Jute, Yungu, so that Shawang Hama, but you have a sound tongue.
So the point I'm trying to make here is that what entered or conceived in the womb of the mother initially was a consciousness, and that consciousness, must have, continued from previous, consciousness, from a consciousness from previous lifetime. So that's how the consciousness, has its own continuity. And so that's very important for us to understand and consider in order to know about life before, life here, and life after. So as we trace the origin of our, life in samsara, or the origin of our consciousness, the beginning of our consciousness, where is the beginning? Let me see it. We cannot find it. There is no beginning, to our consciousness. So there is no beginning to our life. It's not that there is, that it's because we, couldn't see it, because there is no beginning to our life in cyclic existence. Why? If there was, then an enlightened mind, or Buddha, should have been able to see it. But Buddha did not see a beginning to a life in samsara. So when we investigate and analyze the situation of samsara, life in samsara, so what is being said and what we come to understand is that life in samsara has no beginning, but it has an end. So when we say that life in samsara is without beginning but with an end, of course we don't know, shouldn't just think it in a very abstract notion. Oh, I see there is something called samsara and some kind of life in samsara, and that has no beginning but has an end. No, we are talking about our own life in samsara. My own life in samsara has no beginning. It is without a beginning. It came from beginninglessness time. Beginningless time, the proper English is. But it has an end. So how can we say there is an end to our life in samsara? That's because whenever we exhaust contaminated karmic actions and delusions from within our mind, whenever we put an end to contaminated karmic actions and delusions, that is when we see the end of life in samsara. This is where we get out of samsara. So, sentient beings have always been in samsara. They could get out of samsara, But there's no way that, somebody was not in samsara and then somehow kind of, become the new member of samsara, just came from nowhere. I mean, that's not a possibility. Okay? Everybody has been in samsara from beginningless time. Now everybody has a chance to get out of samsara.
So you matong hema meba sub call hema meba sub the shabat in Maris. Kowe nen yabat American shake your Sajagindra your Kavana shake doors.
So one might wonder, well, how come? There are so many, babies are born, every day. So aren't they the new members of samsara? Not really. Because what we have been going through is we're going round and round in samsara. We are born in America, we die here, and we are born in some other part of samsara. People in Europe die and born here, or some other parts of samsara. So basically, we are coming from one state of a samsara to one level of existence of samsara into another level of existence of samsara. It's not a case where somebody has never been in samsara and now is born into samsara. That's not the case.
That rank Shewala and Tam singing the Mayan Basan Stontani, rank Shewala and Tangmeba, Shewa Coronel and Shewala Tangmeba. Shewala Tangmeba in the rank Maya and Tangmeba, Saint Hins and Tame. And the Saint Ria Tame Shave, at the some dancing and some Tongaris Ali Bongaris.
So because there is no beginning to our life in samsara, which means we have taken countless rebirths in different states of samsara, and every time we were born from a mother, so we needed a mother. So when we have been reborn countless times from the wombs of the mothers, so we have had countless mothers. Okay, so that's how all sentient beings, could have become our mothers, not only once, but many times.
Dorjee Amar, that Shane is the lower rate to Shane lose Shane yes, lose cigarettes. Dorjee Amar, the son of towns.
I think it's important to understand how there are different ways of taking rebirth, and there are different states, to be reborn in samsara. So we often talk about 4 different ways of, being born.
Ngal shares and Ransunagi, none is shaking Rikishe. And a gongal shave, gongal shave, Truly shave, to shares in it. Yakam to see Mabuki Child over there, any drug one can shave. And the decision is the Judy Shevas and those in Shane and Mandati, Shetan and Mandati, get those in the other race.
We talk about 4 different ways of being born, or coming into existence, if you will. There is what we call being born from the womb of a mother. That's how we came into being, as we know. And then there is what we call being born from eggs. And then there is what we call being born from heat. Especially during the summer, we know how much heat is there, and heat generates all kinds of, sentient beings. And then there is what we call miraculously born, miraculous rebirth. So born through some miraculous power. So those are the 4 different ways of being born in samsara.
That Geshe in a Chechun country in a Naranso Nangi and Pama Tengu Yamaris. What a top saving.
So those who are born miraculously, of course, they don't need a mom and dad like, we did, right? Those who are born miraculously, whether they're huge size or they're tiny size, doesn't matter. They're just born, miraculously. They didn't need mom and dad.
Geshe Yadu in yours, Judy Shepherd Yadu. Do what you know, Yawla citizen, no Pama Yomaris, top to the same girls.
So being born miraculously, you might think that, that's something great. Everything is positive, No, being miraculously born is of 2 kinds. There's a good way and there's a bad way. The bad example of being miraculously born is in hell. You see, you don't need mom and dad to be born in hell. You just born there, miraculously in the hell realms of existence. But the good examples of miraculous rebirth are that many divine beings or the celestial beings. They are born miraculously. In Treasury of Knowledge or Abhidhammakosha, it states that humans and animals could be born through any of those four ways of being born. But the hell beings and the divine beings, they are only born miraculously. So I think I'm just kind of opening the box a little bit, but I'm not going to go into details that probably at this point of time might confuse you more. So why am I talking about these different ways of being born? Is because every time we are born into samsara, it's not a case where we are born through the womb of the mother. There are other ways of being born. But even in the case of being born from the womb of a mother, we have done that countless times. So it's not that one mother has served us countlessly. She has been the only mother, who give birth to here and there and there in samsara. That's not what it is. Every time we are born from the womb of a mother in samsara, that being the case, then there is a different mom. Now, if you are thinking somewhere in the mind, what, that makes really no sense. How could? Because, there are beings who are males. They don't carry, babies in the wombs. So how could I have been born from my father? Like that. Well, in that case, we are really not considering how the gender and the relationships change. A father has not always been a father. Father was a mother, or is a mother, or could be a mother. A mother is a father. So it's not the case that father is every time born as a father, or mother is every time born as a mother. You see, father could be mothers in some other lifetime, and mother could be father in some other lifetime. So only when you see sentient beings have become our mothers and we come out of their womb, that's what we say mother sentient beings. So if you really think very carefully and deeply, all these possibilities exist, that every sentient being have become our sibling, or our father, our best friend.
So that the sound of that is any that losing gom jenny, that the sound of Mabotani gom jenny, she's an any Navi killer, Sinki Karaki Tona, that social Matoma Nagi, that might eat some bit the heat is shaking dona. I take this any my hair gomping on the temperance.
So considering all such possibilities that sentient beings, change from one rebirth into another rebirth, and our relationships with sentient beings change. So it is in that sense that every sentient being, could have become our mother. And so when we cultivate a lot of analytical meditation in that way, and thinking about all the possibilities and options for such a case, and then as our mind is very familiarized with this whole experience, and now when we encounter any person or a being, if we have a sense of feeling, recognition, that sentient being has been my mom, then I think we have developed that what called recognition of sentient beings as having been my mother.
my head some rangi shaving in and that pento kimbo. You are carrying sena and rang single time my by Hesuna, Single Solan never shake maris. When that day, social thinking again never shares a rank, Pamal never shave Nike, or Lancer same coin or Jetsa, never shake maris.
So if we develop that much recognition, which is the recognition of all beings as having been our mothers, it will serve a great purpose. I think we will not harm any sentient beings. Just like we don't want to harm our mothers. So now we can't harm any sentient beings because every sentient being has become our mother, and we see every sentient being as a mom. So therefore we will not hurt them.
So that same thing, never shake my
So when we think of, kind mom of this lifetime, I don't think anybody really wants to hurt their kind mom. Or would they?
Yeah, so some of the time, pattern to the same didn't want to take some good cold was, yeah.
But when I say that, maybe some of you think that, no, come on, there are many, who are hurting their moms and killing them and, or their dad, So that's not true, do you entertain those thoughts?
That day, Koran took when you don't make a Pujuta to make a Koran to that same thing, Koran to Negamar. Can is that me reserve the keepers? Residing it and Zuka, any social any reserve Mil never says, never shake you, but some king was.
Of course, I'm talking about the sane, sanity in us, Any sane person who feels the kindness of the mother or the father is not going to hurt or kill mom and dad. You see, that's what I meant. When insanity strikes us, anything happens and is possible. So the people who harm their mom and dad, you see, they have lost their sanity. They have gone kind of crazy and delusional. If there is a sanity there, how could they possibly do that? They can't.
Well, that my kid gone that you want to answer that my that carrying the you and the teen temper to go with it. Teen tangles that.
So once we have meditated on the first cause or the step, recognizing all sentient beings as having been our mothers, then the next step or the cause is to remember their kindness. Okay, let's take a moment to reflect on the kindness of our mothers. Maybe there are many of you who have your mothers, with you, means they're alive. And then there are those who have, lost their mothers. They're no more with you or with us. But doesn't matter. Let's take a moment to think about our mother and her kindness.
Oh yeah, that teaching way by taking to a young social lepe of teachable means and taking to a curtain doors.
So, what kind of thoughts, arise in your mind? Do you feel like, oh yes, my mom has been very kind to me, or you think that no, she hasn't been kind to me, at all? So, what kind of thoughts have you generated?
That teachable is something actually. Teachable means some kids that some narras, lochiris.
So those who have, felt the kindness of the mother, that's the right thinking. But those who have thought that mom has not been kind, that thinking is the wrong thinking. This is what we call distorted thought, lokshe, wrong perception.
Choranzo teachable means something. Junse yanda yo maris. So
So those who feel that their mom has not been kind to them or wasn't kind, you see, I think you might have your own justification, but your justifications are, fallible. They really cannot justify, justify your standpoint.
Social and drink man, drink man, that social and never stand. We need that permit never send you at the end and say from somebody, that day you might take it less that the rich child is.
So when we objectively assess, if you will, the mom's kindness, of many days, maybe there could be one day or half a day or one time or another time that maybe she seemed to us like she was unkind to us. But that cannot, invalidate the kindnesses she has rendered to us over many other days or most of the time. I mean, look at the animal world. You see, that mom go to the extent of sacrificing her life in order to protect, nurture her siblings. See, even in the animal world, there is so much mother's kindness. So when you watch television, you might have come across how animals in their kingdom of the world, the mothers, you see, they take so much care of their the young ones, the offsprings, that they protect them all the time. If anybody is going to hurt them, the mom just stands there to guard, and she just doesn't escape or run away. She just puts her life on the line, you see, to protect her offsprings.
Rally put Sachi. Put manana ran nana samba. Put making a ration is somebody. Put Rogomaton and Ratona to somebody. That nigger pay and winner to nigger. Put you decide to make sugars, someone of sugars.
I believe that our human mothers have been equally kind to us, the human offsprings. That really moms, they have so much care for us that if there is a choice to be made whether she should go whether her child should go hungry or she should go hungry, she would go hungry for the child. Or if there is an option that whether her child should get sick or she should, she would do it for her child. Or if there is an option that who should die, somebody has to die, her child or herself, she would be ready to die. So mom has so much selfless concern and love and kindness that she has given us.
The Dungi is some Mavish and Zebs, Dungi Zebasheni, Putin, Gabon, Dungi Putin, and Yambing in a Takaran cake to us.
And look more how much patience mom has. Any kind of difficulties that she comes across for the sake of her child, she just goes through all of them, and she really, she's ready to. She's very determined to face any difficulties and sacrifices she has to make for her child.
You take tea and those in a day, basically. And they tell and she would sank the door. She would then put the yarn. Amati cassette run and you pay to carry any boat trading door. The be her in a hack over the carriage and a cage of the walk. Still put the tables and a quick cage of the door. Well, Ninga those in it. Sinking to Karatambo of Karambusin of Karam, to scale, bullet. Tam Sarunders and Tamarang to go Thomas de Way Chang to us.
Well, when I was in Tibet, and I remember this one time when I was in the retreat, study, and from my window I observed that there was a nest, and where the bird mom was taking so much care of her, offspring, that she would fly somewhere and come back right away with some food. She would feed the offspring because I could hear the chirping there. See, so I observed it. Then she would fly back, and then she would bring some more worms or insects or whatever she could. So she was doing so much that I didn't see her eat, things for herself. So that's how the mom really cared for her little one.
My amazing that thing around some those he has lane. So say Namcho the KG of me, Namcho KG Yabate, and that so malatin, amazing thing in Shumaris.
And now, we have this, we look good, we're healthy, and we're walking, and we have big mouth, and, we can do so many things. But it's all is due to the kindness of our parents, especially mother, you see.
That ring Toronto here, the say the mind by Shebas, my Shebas, and it didn't temper thinking about the something with that you said any in the human shaggy. And the Kadampa, any Shanju ceremony, and Sheba Shag Resca number Mato Senso, Sumunda, that thing in Larung than those few years.
So today I talked about, the need to cultivate recognition of all sentient beings as having been our mothers and remembering her kindness. So we have to do analytical meditation, finding out all the possibilities to cultivate these, recognitions and understanding. And so I will continue explaining the remaining causes and result next time. And what I want you to say is that we should take time to reflect on the things I just explained. I must say that in this wonderful text called Personal Advices from Kadampa Geshes, where we are right now, we talk about, there's mention of the need to cultivate bodhicitta and stabilize it. But it really doesn't tell us, all the meditation techniques to do that. So I'm supplementing this, teaching from the Lamrim, treatises on enlightenment, stages of enlightenment. So I'm trying to explain to you how to do that, how to cultivate bodhicitta. So I have many requests and announcements to make. Okay, first an announcement is more like a reminder for many of you that September 10th, Monday, Geshe is giving refuge precepts of vows at 7:30 in the evening at TDL. So people who are, who would like to take the refuge vows, so you are welcome to that. 7:30 p.m. on September 10, Monday. And I have a number of people who have passed away. And some of the names I have are Tom Mudd, passed away recently, Max Roach, Ronald Goldman. And then, of course, we know that over 500 people are known to have died in the Peru earthquake, and many more thousands are become homeless. So we know about the tragedy at the coal mine in Utah, where rescue worker died, and we still didn't find the other people. So we are requested to pray for all of them, both those who are dead and for the victims and the rescuers there. Then I have requests for people who are not feeling well. Nick Omadikov, and then also request for, we hope that Hurricane Dean he's not going to hit Jamaica, populated island, and because that's going to be a huge tragedy. And then because of all this floodings and monsoons in India and China and I believe Pakistan, many people have died and thousands have become victimized and homeless. So our prayers have been requested for all of that. So what I want to say to you, is that yes, we feel like a sense of overwhelmed that so many people are dead and so many are victimized by all these tragedies and so on. What we really know is very little. It's just a tiny, weeny bit of a thing. When we consider the entire universe, all the world systems in the 10 directions, all of the samsara, there is so much suffering. So many die, in different parts of samsara, so much suffering. And when you think about the suffering of the hell beings, there's just constant suffering there, and as in other bad migrations. So we really want to think about all of this, so then dedicate our prayers for the well-being of everybody. Those who have died, may they find good rebirths, and those who are sick, may they recover from sickness fast, and those who are dealing with sadness and tragedy, may they be able to overcome their sadness and suffering. Just as I explained, in the teaching today, that all those who have died and those who are suffering, everybody has been our kind mother. So we have this, connection with everybody, and so with, with utmost, sincerity, we should do dedication prayers for them.
장 롱보기 부산동점에서 소소에 내부 기부시다 신디 만나기 소소 생도를 내부선 상동.
We should not feel, sense of distance from them as if like these things happen to people we don't know, or but as a matter of fact, we have to feel like it's like same as that our own mothers have died, or that they are going through all these tragedies and suffering, so that we have this sense of closeness with everybody, and dedicate our merits for their well-being.
산지 때문에 보겠다. 이런 내봤다. 저 이긴도 최배 딘지시부 담반의 축구세 개배 때문에 규지인도 되던 매민hun도 아니 규지 최동케 쇼 보면 준지 샤원에 있었는 거 봤다. 이게 이제 가면 되다 이긴도 multiple 소다가 괜히 진진도 소다가 매민hun도
As always, we dedicate our merit for the flourishing of Dharma, the source of benefits and happiness throughout the universe. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and other great holy beings live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their spiritual aspirations. May these and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality.
Andorna Magasenji Kanji, Hidruban, any Hijibada Yumi Bidubal Tony, Sanji Komoromoki Tobi Jurchuki.
In short, we dedicate our collective marriage for all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of delusions and obscuration to omniscient state, and may we all reach complete enlightened state quickly. No,